Welcome back to the channel, everybody. It is a beautiful fall morning here in South Carolina. The weather's 60 degrees and it's going to be a high of 65. I've been here for a few days, just checking the place out. My cousin wanted me to come out here, see what it's like out here. He's moving out here, trying to convince me to move out here, but we'll see. But since I'm in South Carolina, I figured I'd go meet one of my oldest subscribers that kind of built his Bronco sort of after mine. He did a Super Duty axle swap just like mine after watching my videos, got the inspiration to do so. And we've kind of just been friends ever since. I'm really excited to meet him. Figured I'd take you guys along for the journey. So let's hop in the truck, go pick up my cousin, then go head down to the east side of the state and meet this guy. My cousin gave me a beautiful rental truck. Got this awesome 6'4" King Ranch crew cab long bed. This thing is so nice. Makes me want to make bad decisions and go buy a 6'4". Yeah, I really enjoy this thing. Turns out if you buy a 6'4" that's got a brand new engine in it and that engine's never seen emissions, they're actually really reliable. Alright guys, this is Sean. He's got this 1983 Ford Bronco with Super Duty axles, a 7.3 IDI, and a bunch of other vehicles here in the shop in this really nice house and location here in South Carolina. So yeah, let's just kind of go into it and start over like what you did with first, how long you've had it, yeah, just the whole rundown.
The whole rundown. All right, I can do that. So I've had this Bronco for probably around 8-9 years at this point. Picked it up in Texas, bone stock. 31 stock suspension, old worn out 351 C6 in it for like $1,000.
Oh wow.
Brought it back home, and then it's just been my rig ever since, just toying with it. Eventually got a 4-inch lift, eventually got 35s, moved out to Virginia, and that's when I went, you know what, I want to go full on this. I want to have a diesel in it, I want 1 tons, and that's what brought it to where it is today. And actually, your YouTube videos helped me get to that point as well with installing these axles and everything else. It's a very similar setup to what you got going currently. Nice. But start out, I picked up a set of 99 Super Duty axles out of an F-250 while in Virginia for about $500. 373 open front and rear. They came with the springs, brakes, everything else. Got the kit from Skies. Took it over to Buddy's. We got it all welded up in really pretty much a day. Oh, nice. And then the rear's got a 4-inch springs with about 4 inches of block as well. Okay. And that's put it at around 7-inch overall lift from stock on some basically 37.5, 38 by 15 wide, 16-inch tires. One of these Toyo Open Countries. The real thing, I mean, everybody and their mother has 1 tons on a lot of vehicles at this point.
Right, yeah. Very common 1-ton swap, but
the big thing is probably the diesel motor. Now, a whole ton of people have done this diesel, primarily because it's probably not the big power bucket out there that 12-valve Cummins make at 500 horsepower. It's just your simple old 7.3 IDI out of a 1988 F-250, naturally aspirated, mounted with the C6 transmission, but it was a whole budget build. Got the whole motor for about $1,000 with the transmission, and probably got $500 in parts and everything to get it in there. So less than $2,000 for a full diesel swap. Really can't complain.
Yeah, that's good. Is that so? What made you go with the 7.3 IDI? Was it just that you found the deal on Marketplace and decided to go that? Were you set on an IDI, or was there other engine swaps you were thinking about doing?
Originally, I thought about Cummins like everybody, but you get on YouTube, you get on Facebook Marketplace, you look anywhere, nobody's selling or running 12-valve for less than $3,000 to $4,000 nowadays. Yeah. Doing something smaller like a 4BT or TDI swap that's just too big of a rig, especially on 1 tons. I've had friends who power stroke swap stuff. They got a massive wiring harness that goes with them. And I wanted something that was just simple because this is always, it will always be a trail rig, something I want to be able to easily work on. As you see, I love diesels. Most of my vehicles are diesels, so I have a lot of work with diesel. So going to diesel was very familiar for me. And this motor pretty much, the nice thing is Ford from 80 to 96 built the exact same everything under body changed, but the frame stayed the same.
Yeah.
So swapping it in was super smooth. I never had a big budget for this to start with. With everything that's in it, as you see it today, I probably still only have maybe $5-6 grand in this thing.
Wow.
But that was my main thing. I don't need a ton of power.
Right. And the simplicity, the mechanical injection, that definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
Like the bolt right up and stuff. Even if you went like a 12 valve, even the cost wasn't an equation. They're heavy and tall, man. Like it would have taken a lot of work to get it to fit right in here. And then you would have to kind of probably do beefier springs. Then it would have been really front heavy. It wouldn't have been a really good trail rig, I don't think. But
well, the IDI is not much lighter than a 12 valve. It still comes in at around 1,100 pounds. It's a cast block in iron heads, so it's still a very heavy motor, but it does spread the weight out a little bit. Running F250 front suspension though definitely helps with that. I've had no issues with this. Moving back from the motor itself, interior just went simple. Ripped out all the carpet, put in vinyl flooring just to make it easier to wash out, clean, things like that.
Right.
Bench seat I stole out of the 86 F250. Gauges, I pulled out the radio, it never worked. Put gauges in for my temps and everything else. Have had no issues with this. The nice thing with this motor, especially being in Virginia and South Carolina, I wanted AC. So got the AC working in this thing, and it'll freeze you out during the summer. It's pretty nice.
That's awesome. So did you go with a bench seat like intentionally, or was this factory with a bench seat? Because I know some Broncos came with bench seats, but it's kind of more rare.
No, good question. So the funny thing is, this is probably just like the motor. This is a third set of seats that this thing's had.
Right, yeah.
It originally had some old Honda car seats. The previous owner was this, like, I don't know, 7-foot tall dude. When I sat in it, I literally was driving like this.
Okay.
So I ripped those out, found a set of seats out of an old 80s Ford. They're like red, and they're your standard bucket Bronco seats that you usually see. They're completely wore out. I actually had the base plate go through my face, and that's where I got stitches. I had to get teeth fixed and stuff because I was trying to get that to release, and it released in my face. So I've never been a big fan of the seats that were in there. So when I picked up one of the parts trucks that I used to install the motor, it had a beautiful bench in it. So underneath this cover here, nice red and tan. And the same on the back. This is actually the worst part of it. The rest of it's pretty much immaculate. Super comfortable though. Only issue is when you're off-roading, you like to slide from one side to the other. So eventually I do plan on upgrading seats in here, but for what it's worth, it's just myself and my wife. I don't really need a ton of seating. So in the back here, I kept it simple. I pulled out the rear seat. Again, this is a trail rig, so I want to be able, if I need to throw a spare tire in here, toolkits, what have you, I got the room for it. I found a toolbox for mounting on the side of the truck. I haven't put a lock in it yet, but I will. But that way I can take the top off, I can keep all my tools locked up and not worry about anybody messing with the back. And it fit perfectly where the foot wheel well is.
Yeah, that's great. That works great.
Because of the rear bumper that's on here, I put chains in just to get the tailgate to lift up a little bit higher so it doesn't hit that bumper. But the both front and rear bumpers are off of a 78 F250. They've both been bolted in, welded into place.
Sweet. That's about it for this thing, right?
Yeah, for the most part, it still's got most of the drive lines the same, so same drive shafts. Same transfer case, all of that. Again, these Fords, everything's adaptable. Everything bolts to itself. All I had to do is just change out the yokes on the drive shaft to meet up with the flanges for the newer axles, but all the links and everything stayed the same, even with the lift.
Okay, right on. So yeah, the big thing I've noticed with the axle swap that Sean's done differently than mine is he didn't buy that shackle flip kit that I got, and I'm indifferent on if I liked it or not. The lifted leaf and the blocks, honestly, I think are going to give the same results. I'm running the Bronco springs.
So, in part, I would like to get rid of the blocks, and I'd like to go partially with what you got. I want to do, I think you have a front drop and rear drop. So you've got the shackle flip and you got a front drop.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep the same front, but I'm going to do a shackle flip in the rear, which will give me that 3 or so inches that I need from the blocks. To get rid of the blocks so that I just have the one shim And then it's spring on axle. These springs were, I think they were Skyjacker or something like that, but they're like a soft ride Bronco spring. So I don't have the F250 springs in the rear. I want as much flex as possible.
Yeah. So I'm running the factory leaf in the rear, which is I kind of really like because that thing flexes so much. Like my whole front tire is tucking up in there. It worked really well. It was definitely overkill. Like I did not need that kind of setup, but yeah, it worked great. If you flip in the shackle, would that give you more articulation? I can't remember the benefit of that.
So
okay.
Right now with the hang, I don't remember the exact wording, but with the hang setup, it's fighting against itself. It's good for if you're having heavy loads, but for like a Bronco that's pretty light rear end, having it flipped where the shackle's actually pressing on it instead, so upside down, it gives it a lot more travel for not a whole lot of effort.
Well, he's got a bunch of other trucks, so let's kind of dive into that right now.
Going with the theme of swapping axles and everything, this is my 97 F250 Power Stroke. As we know, F250s and OBS and prior all came with that TTB front end that everybody loves, right?
Oh yeah, it's the best.
I hated the way it drove and rode with the TTB. Yep. Anytime I reversed, tires would tuck in, everything was wore out. So
always had camber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I went with the Skies off-road design, their kit again for this, but it's a shackle flip kit this time. Installed that, and then I have, these are axles out of a 04 Super Duty under here with 373 gearing. This originally had 410 gearing on it, and I was screaming to do 65, 70 down the highway.
410s do not want to do 65 or
No.
over 65.
No, and I was getting like 13 miles to a gallon and all that. So ever since I've done the swap of the 373 on 35s, it's about a 4-inch lift overall in the whole truck. I just took it to Georgia and back this weekend, and I've got about 18 miles to a gallon. So it made a massive difference on that, and it's just the drivability is totally different. The rest of the truck's pretty much stock. It's a Virginia truck, so it's absolutely full of that weight reduction.
Oh yeah.
Interior wise, it's actually really clean on this truck too.
Yeah, really nice truck.
Which then, that's what this truck back here is partly for. This is actually a parts truck I got out of Georgia. It's got no rust on it, but it's got the long bed. It's the same color. Front fenders, everything's in good condition. So all of this is going to be getting swapped onto this truck to get rid of a lot of that rust issue with it.
Right on.
And then it's a gift that keeps on giving. As I was saying, this is the gift that keeps on giving. This has a 5.8 in it, E4OD with about 120,000, 130,000 miles on it. Really good motor. It's a 93. It's just the year before the MAF, unfortunately, so it still has the high, speed density sensor. But outside of that, I've had no issues with this. I bought it in Georgia, drove it 4 hours here, sight unseen. Other than the tires screaming at me because they're Humvees.
Yeah.
It did really good. So this motor and trans is going to come out of this and is going to go into my wife's Bronco here. This is a 94, picked up in Virginia. Gorgeous truck. Love the blue and white. She's already named it. She named it the cattle box because of our cattle dogs.
Oh yeah.
Nice. So actually it's got one of the coolest names out of all the vehicles I own.
Yeah.
But it's got a wore out 5.0 in it with about 300,000 miles on it. It's got an E4OD that's more of a E2, sometimes OD. So it doesn't like to shift too much. So we've been having a lot of small issues. I've already dropped the tank, put a new fuel pump in it, new fuel lines. I've done a lot of stuff to the motor to get it up to where it's at right now, but she just ain't happy.
Yeah.
So this is going to give us a lot more power, especially with these stock 355 axles on here. Eventually, I do plan on putting different axles in. I want to go to 410. The rear axle of this truck was 410. That might go in here if I could find a heavy-duty Dana 44 for the front. This would probably be the first coil-over setup that I would go with, just for that better ride.
Yeah, the problem is finding that Dana 44 because
they're hard to come by
and expensive. But it's a bolt-in kit. It's a bolt-in swap. It's
it really is.
Bolt-in swaps you can do.
But that would keep this at the most I want to go on. This is a 4-inch. Again, this is for my wife. She's not in the height department, and she just wants a good, solid daily driver that she can drive outside of just her Subaru that she's got.
Right.
So, but yeah, full blue interior. Everything works, all power. It's not the the Eddie Brawler?
Eddie Bauer.
Eddie Bauer edition like yours, but it is an XLT, so it's the next trim level.
Yeah. No, it's really clean. The 2-ton's awesome. The blue interior is great. That's The 90s vibes in this thing are awesome. It's really good.
Yeah, this is screams Bronco.
Yeah, oh yeah. And you got a shop now too. I remember when you were doing the axle swap, it was like in the driveway warrior, which like mad respect for driveway warriors. I could not.
It was
it's
rough.
brutal.
Up in Virginia, it was, especially during the winter, it got cold.
Oh yeah.
Here, it's nice having a shop. The problem is the doors on these shops, half my vehicles won't fit through this.
Yep. Yeah, I know that struggle.
Yeah. Outside of that, I'll get the doors fixed on this. It is nice to have a shop again. I don't have all my stuff in the backyard or hiding in a shed.
I think we're gonna get some lunch and then possibly go on a trail and kind of just do some little bit of driving around on the Super Duty Bronco.
But even the AC in this thing works too. All my vehicles, the AC works.
Nice. That's awesome. That's a flex.
This thing, funny, so the previous owner tried to do a delete for the smog pump.
Okay.
And then he tried to put an idler pulley in, but he didn't get all the hardware for it. So I actually found a shorter belt and just ran it.
I thought you couldn't do that on the... Damn it. That means I bought the wrong belt for my truck.
Yeah,
I thought you couldn't do that on the OBS models. With the way the tensioner was down here.
I do have a problem with the belt. Well, this tensioner problem is it's wallowed out where the tensioner is mounted. So it likes to pop off the tensioner sometimes.
Oh.
So I've actually got a whole nother plate down there with the tensioner that actually isn't broken on it. It does have a smog pump. So either I'm going to clear out the smog pump and mount it with the smog pump again, or at least have a plate that doesn't have a broken tensioner.
Yeah, or you can get an idler pulley. But it's complicated because you gotta get this. You gotta get a Mustang AC delete idler pulley.
I have the pulley.
But then you gotta change the pulley out to a different size. But you only do all that just to make the belt, just to have the right belt.
Just to have the same belt on it.
Like that's it.
But I mean, it's getting this one anyways. This is just getting tossed in here, so it's almost not even worth.
So is this one the same setup or is it? Yeah, it is. Okay. Because I know on the bolt, I think the bowl noses and the brick noses, they have the older alternator that was I can't remember what the.
It had like the adjuster instead of just being bolted straight to the.
I don't think mine had an adjuster. I just know it didn't produce enough amps. It was only like a 50 amp or something like that.
Oh yeah,
but these new ones are 150 amp.
Well, that was the problem with the IDIs too. So they're external regulated. They're not internal regulated.
Yeah.
But yeah, the IDIs at idle, especially since they idle low, they made like next to no amperage. So that's why I swapped in a Ford Taurus alternator on that, and it makes like 150, 200 amps at idle. It's crazy.
Oh, that's not bad. Classic. How fast is the IDI?
It gets 0 to 60 eventually.
That must mean it's got good gas mileage, right?
It's miles per mile. It's better than the 351 that was in here.
Oh, I bet.
It's in the double digits at least.
Yeah, I think I get like 7. That's not bad. Wow. Why does it smell so burnt? Is that the heater core or something?
No, that's just the exhaust.
Oh, okay.
That's just the whole diesel.
Alrighty, we just had some lunch. Really good spot. We're gonna go film some rollers and then go meet some neighbors that also got some really cool builds. gonna be it for this one. It was super awesome meeting Sean. I'm really glad I took the drive down there to go see him. It was definitely worth it. He's an awesome dude. A natural behind the camera too. That was like so good. I was a little worried that that wasn't gonna be as good as it did, but he killed it. He absolutely killed it. It was cool seeing his rigs. Definitely awesome meeting your internet friends. Highly recommend it. It gives you a little more faith in humanity, if you know what I mean. Like, it's just nice knowing that, you know, you can meet people on the internet and they're not like bad people. He was a really good dude. It was awesome. So be sure to check out his Instagram. I'll link it down below. He's always updating his builds, and he's got a lot of like what he's done, you know, to this point, to most of his builds on there. So if you liked any of his stuff, definitely go check it out. Stay tuned for next video because we got to meet Sean's neighbor. Sean's neighbor is building a pretty insane show truck, 4-door Centurion Bronco. Really cool truck. That's a whole nother video for itself though, so be on the lookout for that one. With that being said, thank you guys for watching. We'll see y'all next week. Peace.